Okay, everybody, I'd like to introduce our next presenter here at the Planet MicroCap Showcase Vancouver in association with Small Cap Discoveries. Now presenting is Stephen Harper from Progressive Planet Solutions.
So I have my stopwatch. I got 25 minutes. I have 23 slides. I like to start with just a little personal of who I am. I'm an immigrant to Canada. I was born 12 days before the Troubles started in Northern Ireland, and so I was born August 1st, 69. The Troubles started August 12th. My parents thought there was better opportunity in Canada, and my mom and dad were fascinated with iron and steel. And so I had an older brother who was 14 months older than me. They call those Irish twins. And they packed up and they moved to Canada to pursue their passion in iron and steel. So they started out, my mother ironed, my dad stole. That was my attempt at humor. Okay, I'll start off. My passion is material science. I'm trained as a CPA. I worked in investments. And at the age of 38, I had a midlife crisis and realized that my true passion was material science and how can we use science to create healthy products to mitigate climate change. And this is our story. I want to acknowledge 5 people in the room that have been crucial to the success of getting this story into a reality, into an economic reality, a science reality, an R&D reality. My partner, David Richardson, I worked for his family and coming out of university as a broker with Richardson Greenshields at the age of 23. Was there when we got bought out by the Royal Bank, and I met Dave in 2009. And Dave is the co-founder of Progressive Planet. He's got over 20 patents himself. He's a philanthropist, and he is a scientific genius, and we gel and we work well together. Next to him, Michael Gardner handles government relations and strategy for us, has been really critical in letting the powers that be know what's happening in our province and in our country. Next to him, Randy Gu. Randy is a mechanical engineer, 40 years with Lafarge, sits on our board. Dave is our largest shareholder, owns 25% of our pubco. Behind them, Chris Halseybrand, CPA, CBV, brilliant entrepreneur, worked in the office next to me in 2007 when we were both CPAs for a big regional accounting firm. Both of us left to pursue entrepreneurial. Chris is one of the finest experts in private company finance, had the highest mark in Canada of anybody that wrote any exam in 2008 to become a CBV. And my dear wife is sitting in the front, and these 5 people have all been wonderful, Sydney Harper, in helping it takes a village to make things happen. So I'm going to move quickly because I've already burned 3.5 minutes. Our mandate is to produce products for a healthy planet. I want people 5 generations from today to live the same quality of lifestyle that we enjoy in this room. And if we are not careful how we utilize our resources, that will not happen. Okay. Who we are. I want to talk about the value proposition. Essentially, we are a bricks and mortar, vertically integrated manufacturing company. We make over 2 million products out of Kamloops, BC. We make cat litter. We make animal bedding amendments. We make industrial absorbents with no chemicals in them. And we have started in 2 different areas developing proprietary products. Although you see 5 different things here, diatomaceous earth, bentonite clay, zeolite, quartz, and waste glass, there's one common denominator. Everything that we do is a form of a silicate. And silicates are one of the most predominant materials in the Earth's crust, second only to oxygen, which represents 55% of the mass of the Earth's crust. our oceans. So while we have this relatively boring, vertically integrated manufacturing operation, we have developed expertise in the materials that we make. We make cat litter that's in every Costco in BC. We make industrial absorbents that are in over 600 Canadian Tires across Canada. But these same materials make some really neat products for us. Who we are a B2B manufacturer. We ship 2 million plus products a year. All of our products are made from silicates. We ship to retail chains, distributors, and poultry mills. Our products are sold ultimately in 10,000 plus retail stores in North America, but we only have 125 clients. We are B2B. We ship to national chains. We ship to national distributorships. We ship to huge feed mills. So as we've developed product expertise in two areas, one is in low-carbon cement powders that replace Portland, utilizing mineral assets, silicates, once again, and recycled materials. Glass is a sodium silicate. And we create planet-friendly products. I'll talk about them in a few slides. The second area that we've developed expertise is in agricultural and animal health products. Once again, we're utilizing our mineral assets, silicates, flagship product, activated barn fresh. We came up with an idea to combine a silicate diatomaceous earth with a organic certified citric acid to reduce ammonia in chicken barns, allowing chickens to breathe easier and farm workers to breathe easier. And if you eat chicken that is not organic and it's made in the U.S., they are allowed to spray sulfuric acid on that floor of that barn to reduce the ammonia. But it is so caustic that they can't put the chicks in for another week. So for organic certified broilers, they are allowed to use citric acid. And so we have a massive deposit of this diatomaceous earth that naturally reduces odor, and we combine it with citric acid, and we sell this. Last year, 90 million chickens walked on the bedding with activated barn fresh in broiler houses that utilize this product. Nobody else can sell it until 2033, so we have a captive market. It was developed from a concept to over 25 million in sales, ultra-high margin. We have other products in early stage development. I make lots of mistakes, and I started developing several products, and I talked about them early before they were established in a market. I learned from that, and we don't talk anymore about what's under development until we've proved there's a market for it and we've proved its efficacy. But we have a full-scale agricultural and animal health R&D program run out of Kamloops, and all of those expenses you see in our financials. Product manufacturing. Our value proposition is our manufacturing business enables and funds innovation while still allowing us money to buy back our shares, which we recently started. Activated barn fresh was the first example, from an idea to patent to over 25 million in sales. Our team is now focused on cement innovation. So we've got an established and experienced manufacturing team that's vital as we scale up cement innovation. If you look on the left, you'll see this is Can-Dry. We sell this all over Canada. Ironically, it looks a little bit looks a little bit like the Petro-Canada logo. We trademarked this before Petro-Canada in 1993. I checked it out because I was worried when we bought the company. This looks just like Petro-Can. But that's our logo. That's one of our top sellers. WonderCat. We sell that in every Costco in BC. Activated barn fresh, I just talked about. You can see a list of some of the big companies who we do business with. Our value proposition is to utilize mineral asset cash flow to fund innovation without having to go out and dilute our shareholders over and over again to fund innovation. And we are, at the same time, ultra laser focused on cost control and high margins. When we bought Absorbent Products in February of 2022, our gross margin was 12.7%. in our last quarter were over 33. And that was a whole bunch of hard work. We are monetizing byproduct powders to replace fly ash. I'm going to talk about fly ash, which has been the material that's been added to cement to make concrete for the last 80 years, and it's going away rapidly. Monetize the same powders to produce agricultural products, create products for production via royalty agreements, and shift over time to urban mining of recycled materials versus quarrying of products that once they're gone, they're gone. The $363 billion cement industry accounts for 26% of global industrial emissions. At the same time, cement demand is growing. USA consumption of cement, 62 million tons in 2011, 92 million tons in 2021, and that number will go up by 50% for 2031. A huge reason that the demand for cement is with catastrophic events, fires. If you have a stick frame home and you live in California and it burns down, you can't get insurance if you build a 2x4 with plywood stick frame construction. They won't insure you. If you live in coastal zones of Florida and your house gets wiped out, there are insurance companies leaving the state because of the catastrophic devastation. So more and more people, look at the Bahamas, completely wiped out. They're building concrete structures because they're resilient to catastrophic events. The sector is ripe for innovation, and private equity is funneling cash to solutions, and we have viable solutions. Our first solution, Pause Glass, replaces cement, sequesters CO2, and is made from post-consumer glass diverted from landfills. But don't take our word for it. The biggest cement company in the world signed a 10-year agreement to offtake whatever we can make from our pilot plant, up to 3,500 tons a year. They did their homework. They tested our material. After we finish our pilot plant, there's no further CapEx for us. It's a royalty model, and because we harvest CO2 from a flue stack and we mineralize it during the process, these make sense to be located and co-located directly at cement kilns, and commercial plants to be replicated in major cities worldwide through a licensing model. Pause Glass has an ultra-low carbon footprint. The production of Portland cement accounts for 8% of the global CO2. There are two industrial processes that collectively are the two worst. One is the production of steel, generates 8% of the CO2 pollution caused by humans annually. Secondly is the production of Portland cement, once again 8% of our global CO2. So when you make Portland cement, you take a very common material called limestone, you heat it up to 900 degrees, and 44% of the weight of that rock has a chemical reaction. It's well known. It's been used for centuries. It's called calcination. You take limestone and heat it up to 900 degrees Celsius, and you lose 44% of its weight as a carbonate becomes CO2, and you're left with calcium oxide, the building block of cement. But in order to get all of that energy, you burn a bunch of hydrocarbons. The general rule of thumb is that to make 1,000 kilograms of cement, you create 950 kilograms of CO2. So, in the red here, there's a chemical reaction. 1,000 kilos goes in, 560 kilos of powder comes out, 440 kilos of CO2 into the atmosphere. The first phase is 900 C, and the second phase of making cement is 1,500 C. With Pause Glass, there is zero calcination. We're taking glass like this, we grind it into a fine powder, there's no off-gassing. And the only heat we use is 375, where we dry the material at the end. We have a second innovation called Pause Pyro, and this is a joint venture with a company that some of you may have heard of in this room, Pyrogenesis Canada. where we take virgin crystalline silica and we use a plasma torch to melt it into a cement. It has superb early strength. It has superb long-term strength. There is no off-gassing, and it is made from the second most common material in the world, silica. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. This is less developed than the pause glass, and I simply do not have the time to get into this in detail. Fly ash, the disappearing coal byproduct. Portland cement is used as the main binding agent in 95% of cement mixes globally. There are two secondary binding agents used globally. One is fly ash, a byproduct generated when coal is burned to produce electricity, and the second is steel slag, a waste product when steel is made in a blast furnace. It is not produced in bulk in our region. Fly ash, Western Canada, Pacific Northwest. In the year 2000, there were 40 coal-fired power plants in Canada. In the year 2000, 80% of Alberta electricity was created by coal. 90 days ago, the last one shut down. There is zero electricity produced in Alberta, and the millions of tons of this byproduct is no longer being generated that's been used in cement. By the year 2030, all coal-fired power plants in Western Canada must be closed unless they use carbon capture and storage. So if they burn coal, they got to put the CO2 in the ground, and they have to prove to government regulators that they're doing it effectively, or the one that's left that still burns coal, Boundary Dam in Saskatchewan, will also close. In 2025, the only coal-fired power plant left in Washington State, this plant, 20 years ago, produced 1 million tons of fly ash a year. That was all used to replace 20% of Portland. It shuts down in its entirety, the last phase, in 2025. It removes the final supply of fly ash. The big cement companies are literally barging in steel slag and fly ash from Japan, Korea, and China into Seattle right now. That they are doing it today. Cement Tech, other developers. All cements are made from minerals. They're either made from limestone, calcium, or a silicate. Anything that is developed is using one of those two materials. We have 4 silicate mines in BC that generate mineral bipowders. And when we ship our 2 million packages, those are all various forms of silicates: diatomaceous earth, bentonite clay, zeolite, and we generate powders. There are other companies that have spent millions of dollars figuring out how to activate these powders, but they don't have any supply. So we've developed Cement Tech, and we have a supply, and if your supply is not close to large urban markets, you cannot make money because they're very heavy. If your supply is 16 hours trucking from a city, all of the cement is used in bridges and in high-rise construction. All of the cement that's used is essentially used in cities. Where's all the glass generated? All the waste glass is generated in big cities. So we are talking to and working with others who spent millions of dollars perfecting technologies. I'm not going to say any names, but if you want to Google them, you will see cement tech startups that have raised huge amounts of money in Calgary and Vancouver from some of the biggest investors in the world perfecting technology in this area. So these cement techs need access to feedstocks close to large cities, Metro Van, Metro Seattle. All of the new data centers that Amazon is building, that Microsoft is building, they want low-carbon cement in these buildings. The federal government of Canada says every single federal building that has built from 3 years ago has to have cement that has 10% less carbon footprint. So they have to use limestone, it's called Portland limestone cement versus Portland cement. The trend is everywhere. Peer cement tech companies, and I got 5.5 minutes, so I'm going to go quickly here. Peer cement tech companies have raised over $400 million US in private equity funding. No single solution solves the entire industry problem. The solutions that integrate with the trillions of dollars of these plants, the property, plant, and equipment, that is the trillions of dollars that are existing infrastructure. If you want to go against that, you're swimming upstream. You need to work with the existing solutions and make them better. Clean Concrete focused recently funded companies. Mighty Buildings, $101.8 million. Subline Systems, $40 million. Brimstone Energy, $55 million. Carbon Built, $10 million. Terra CO2 is a Vancouver-based startup, and they are taking mine tailings, a feedstock. Guess who has 4 different mines that generates mine tailings? Progressive Planet. Terra CO2, they don't own any mines. They raised $81 million to create a technology. In a prior life, I learned that you have the best technology, but if you don't have the feedstock, you have to have the technology and the feedstock. Alchemy, $10 million. Now we're going to go down here. The last one, Carbon Cure Technologies, $89 million. That's a startup out of Halifax. This company takes compressed CO2 from third-party locations, compresses it, drives it to a cement plant, releases it where less than 20% of that CO2 that they've compressed is utilized. The rest goes to atmosphere. We take ambient temperature CO2 generated at site from a cement kiln, or in our case, we generate 4,000 tons of CO2 in our own natural gas dryer when we make these 2 million products. We bubble that through our wastewater, and we sequester that with no pressure and no transportation. $89 million. Our management team, I've referenced several of the people here tonight. I'll provide this to people rather than going through. We have a superb team. Board of directors, again, Randy's here, the rest of Dave is here, but the rest of these people I'll provide you so that you can read about it. Share structure, 110 million shares, 8.6 options, and we have warrants. 2 people in this room plus 1 person that's not in this room, personally guaranteed 30% of our debt almost 3 years ago with the Bank of Montreal for us to proceed with a leveraged buyout of absorbent products for $16.3 million. And they were rewarded with warrants for doing that. What that did for us, it dramatically decreased our cost of capital. We borrowed 10.9. Today we owe about 6.4, and we are financed at prime plus 75 with 23-year amortization. And we can pay it off at any time. Thank you to Chris Halsey-Brand, thank you to David Richardson, and thank you to another gentleman, Peter, who for health issues had to walk away, for personally guaranteeing that debt to enable us to do this transaction. Why should you own Plan shares? I just went through 400 million of companies that have 0 revenue, that have cement technologies. You all know that the biggest cement company in the world agreed to partner with us. So they don't make these decisions willy-nilly. And I believe there's a massive arbitrage in valuation versus private equity investment in cement. We are cash flow funding all of our intellectual property and product development, and at the same time have started buying back our shares and accruing cash in the bank, and we have a competent and aligned management team. That's it, and I got 1 minute and 2 seconds left. If anyone has any questions, you got 58 seconds now. If you look at our margin quarter over quarter, you'll see that they have been above 30 for a period of time. The industry average is about 26%. But we have several high margin products, such as our activated barn fresh, our red lake earth, that have margins 40 and 50. And then we have some commodity items that have 20s. I believe that a margin between 27 and 35 is long-term sustainable, and we had some low-hanging fruit that we addressed. Now we are looking at things such as the efficiency of our natural gas burners, and we are finding savings. We introduced a culture of continuous improvement. We're bringing in third parties. 10 years ago, FortisBC paid 75% of a study to make our burners more efficient, and then they gave us $550,000 in incentives as we improved. They approved this year and funded another study and they're paying another 75% of that study. We have identified all sorts of areas that we can improve on our margins through energy. We have a vested interest in automation. Right now we have 4 production lines and only 1 is robotic. And we just sent home an engineering firm, MIT grads out of Texas. And right now our second best-selling product, Red Lake Earth, we hand stack. And so one person can stack 60 bags at 40 pounds in an hour, and they're worth about $12.50 US. With automation, we can move from 1 to 6. So you work the numbers on the revenue per employee. So we have the ability to increase. So when you buy a company and you take an R&D focused company and you merge it with a 30-year-old bricks and mortar, there's growing pains. It took us 2 years to get our act together, to figure out the redundancies and the efficiencies. We're now focused, the next focus, we have a corporate culture. I am grateful that people trusted us with their capital, and I owe a lot of people that trusted us with their capital to generate returns, and we are not taking our foot off the gas as it comes to continuing. So yes, it is sustainable. It is not a one-time. There are business risks that I can't control, but it is realistically sustainable long-term. Thank you. I appreciate your time and your attention.